1. A couple years ago, my friend Kate had asked me to go with her to a party. This party was being thrown by her friend Susan. Kate had gone to Catholic school with her, in elementary and middle school. But during high school, Kate ended up going to public school where she met me, while Susan went to Catholic high school. The two had grown somewhat apart and hung out with different people, which is why Kate invited me along. It was Susan's birthday, and apparently Susan's parents had decided to rent out a cabin for her. They did this her previous year and, unbeknownst to them, she had decided to throw a party. The party had been a hit, so she was planning on doing it again. Kate and I drove to the cabin together. The cabin was pretty isolated. Aside from the woods behind it, there wasn't anything around. We couldn't even see other cabins, but I imagine they would probably be empty because it was wintertime. I was a little apprehensive because I wasn't going to know anyone at the party, but I figured after a few drinks that wouldn't really bother me anymore. Also, if you watch scary movies, you know that having a party in a cabin in the woods is a horror movie cliché. I was very aware of that. Kate and I had even been joking about how attending this party sounded like a prelude to a horror film. As if that wasn't enough, this was a Catholic schoolgirl party. We arrive at the cabin, and it's pitch black outside. We needed to use our phones just to find our way. We go inside, everything seems fine. Birthday girl is having a fun time. There's a good amount of people. The odd thing is that there seems to be a strange sort of divide at this party. Kate and I were completely unaware of what was happening. I did happen to notice this classy guy who had the name of the city we lived in tattooed in a messy scrawl across his neck. Kate and I had been silently laughing about it, but we were also a little worried because we wondered if that meant he was in a gang or something. Anyways, I don't remember why, but the main group of the party wanted these people to leave. I think it has something to do with them drinking a lot, despite not having brought any alcohol of their own. So, in order to get these people to go, the main group said that a ranger, or whoever, was coming to stop by, and that there were only supposed to be like 2 cars by the cabin, and a handful of people. Rumor was that one of the guys in the group was on probation, and couldn't afford to get in trouble. They left. The plan was a success. Or so we thought. Just as the group leaves, there were about 4 or 5 guys and 1 girl. The girl comes back and says, "I just want to tell the birthday girl happy birthday," in a really loud voice, drawing everyone's attention. Everyone was staring at her in confusion. Why was she announcing this? When not even 2 seconds later, we hear a window in one of the back rooms being busted open. This continues on and more windows are being broken. People are shouting and screaming. I'm just standing there in confusion. Kate and I had been at this party for all of 15 minutes before all hell broke loose. And the girl who had invited the group of hoodlums is now saying that she knows at least one of them has a gun. Great. I don't know if my mind wasn't processing all of this correctly or what, but I'm just sitting there thinking, well, this is happening. The majority of us remained in the cabin. A couple of people went outside to see if the group was still there. And after a little bit of time had passed, people began to leave. There was still some fear that those guys might be out there waiting. But a lot of people just wanted to get the fuck out. I remember 3 girls who had been planning on staying the night had gathered all their stuff up, their arms were full, and began heading out the door. As soon as all 3 walked out, we hear screaming coming from the woods, and all 3 girls immediately turn around and walk back in. In retrospect, it was kind of funny. One of the 3 girls proceeds to start crying. Luckily, the scream had only been that of a new girl arriving at the party. She had seen her friend outside and had screamed in excitement. Kate and I stayed at the cabin for a couple of hours. We really didn't want to leave Susan alone, and the majority of people had left at this point. Aside from us, there were only a couple of other people left in the cabin. Thankfully, those people were staying the night, so Kate and I were able to leave at around 2 a.m. We had all debated calling the cops, but considering the underage drinking going on, no one really wanted to. Plus, Susan was worried about her parents finding out about the party and had decided she was just going to lie about how the windows had been broken. Thankfully, the group of people, potential gangsters, did not return. While that night had been scary, all I can really focus on was the fact that this took place at a cabin in the middle of the woods, at a party thrown by Catholic schoolgirls. Of course, that would be the one and only party I've been to have scary shit like this happen. Beware cliches. 2. A bit of background. I am a 26-year-old female and extremely short, relatively 5'1"-ish. This occurred when I was 23 years old. I had just moved a long ways away from my family and had no relatives or friends nearby me at the time. I had moved from my home, and although my parents did not agree with this decision, worrying that something might happen to me so far from home, I disregarded this entirely, thinking how I'm an adult and my parents were just being overprotective. I had gotten a job, and life seemed to be working out for me thus far in the area. After renting an apartment, a friend from college, Ashley, was urging me to get a boyfriend as I had only had 2 relationships prior. Ashley said that a friend of hers had a friend looking for a relationship and thought it would be a great idea to get us to meet. I reluctantly agreed. Little did I know, it would trigger one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. Ashley said this would be completely blind, no texting or anything before, so I knew virtually nothing, not even his name. First date, he stood me up. Why the hell am I doing this? I had thought, and headed home. A day or 2 later I got a text. Why didn't you come to our date? You were just shy, right? The hell do you think you are? You'll stand me up, fucking whore? I was in complete shock as I had no idea who this was, but soon assumed it was the guy I was supposed to have the blind date with. I responded saying how he was the one standing me up, and asked how he had gotten my phone number. He didn't respond, so I blocked his number and asked Ashley if she had given her friend's friend my number. She said no and told me her friend wasn't answering her calls or texts. She had completely disappeared, and Ashley apologized, not knowing what happened. I brushed it off, thinking her friend had pulled a stupid prank. After the text, I noticed more strange things happening. I would get random calls or texts with threatening messages. I got a letter in front of my apartment door saying, "You're not safe, bitch. I'd know where you live," in scrawled writing. I began to seriously fear for my life, wondering if a crazy stalker was after me. One night, I got a call from an unknown number multiple times. I ignored it, thinking it was the stalker. As I was about to block it for some reason, I answered, screaming, "Leave me alone. I don't know what you want, so go away. Stop, stop, stop." His answer chilled me to the core. "Look out your window." I pulled my curtains on my window aside and peered out. A dark silhouette wearing a skull ski mask waved to me, and then the call ended. My legs went weak and I stumbled to the ground, freaking out, not knowing what to do. What the hell did this guy want? On my way to work, I would get messages like blue car, red shirt, work at random store. He was watching me each day. It got worse. One day, I got an envelope filled with pictures of me getting coffee, driving to work, leaving my apartment. Just when I thought it couldn't get any more creepier, I got an envelope of pictures of me changing. He must have gotten from nearby because in the picture my window was open. I was terrified and knew I wasn't safe anymore. Luckily, my friends had been talking about going on a road trip, and I thought a bit away would do me some good. Maybe he would stop bothering me. The trip proved to be fun. We stayed at my friend's parents' house. I wanted to do some shopping at a large mall, and my friend's parents graciously let me use their car, as the one my friends and I travelled in was being used. They wanted to see a movie, but I wanted to shop, since the movie didn't interest me. It was late, and as I was putting bags into my car trunk, I looked to the left and saw a man standing a couple cars away, wearing that very same ski mask. I dropped all my bags and stood frozen in fear, 'cause I'm a fucking genius. Surprisingly, and thankfully, I screamed, causing him to leave. I assumed he thought it would attract attention. After that, I burned all bridges, moved, changed emails, credit cards, job, phone number. Everything I possibly could. I never saw him again after that. So, creepy skull ski mask man, let's never ever fucking meet again. 3. So a little description about me before I proceed with this story. I am a gay man, although to most people it is not really obvious, because I have manly taste, and I am considerably fearless most of the time, as I enjoy the thrill of getting creeped out. This happened in the Philippines in 2012. I was 18 at the time, and I was living in a residential district by my university, where most of the structures are apartments and dormitories for rent. I was living in an apartment with my sister. Unlike my sister, I don't usually come home on the weekends because I would rather drink the weekend away with my friends. One night, while I was on my way to a party, a guy messaged me on Grindr. He had no profile picture, and seeing that he is less than a mile away, I figured that he may be going to the same university as me, and is being discreet about it. I don't remember the entire conversation, but this is pretty much how it went. Grindr guy: "What's up, sexy?" Me: "Heading out to a party, you?" Grindr guy: "Really? Same. Where?" I was aware of stranger danger back then, but I felt invincible because of my height and my lean but athletic body. And as I've mentioned, I don't get scared easily. Me: name of club. Grindr guy: "What a coincidence. I'll see you there." Me: "Sure. Mind sending a pic?" Grindr guy: "I'll find you." I didn't reply, and actually didn't care because my plan was to just enjoy the night and see where it goes. So I headed out around 10 p.m, still considered a safe hour in the city where I was staying, and walked a few blocks to the main street, and then waited for my female friend who lived in the district on the other side of the main street to pick me up. We headed to the party and met up with my other friends there. We took our seats in a booth with couches and ordered drinks. Our orders came, and for a while, everything seemed normal, and I honestly already forgot about the guy on Grindr. A waiter then headed to our direction, bringing a glass of martini, handing it to me. He said in our language, "It's from that guy over there." I looked towards the direction he was pointing at, trying to adjust my vision to see through the laser lights and smoke. I saw this Nordic-looking, scruffy, muscular guy in a hooded sweater, who raised his glass as our eyes met, smiling before he took a sip. My friend started teasing me and kept telling me to go talk to him, but I didn't want to at first. After this, most of my friends were leaving their seats to dance. I couldn't do anything because I was thinking about the guy. It took me about 30 minutes to muster the courage to finally approach him. I could remember the next events that happened vividly. Not only because it was awkward, but I've never felt so threatened in my life. I sat next to him at the bar, and it seemed like he'd just paid for his drinks, and was about to leave. Being a natural flirt, I knew I had to stop him and score one for the night. Like, get his number and get to know him more. "Hey," I said. I realized that he may be a foreigner, which is typical, because there are a lot of foreigners living in this city. "Thanks for the drink," I said out loud, trying to cut through the music. He just nodded. "Are you that guy from Grindr?" I then whispered in his ear. He just smiled. It was weird because it almost felt like he was trying to be seductive, but at the same time hard to get. And at the same time, it looked like he doesn't have a clue. At that point, I was already giving up, trying to start a conversation. I don't know what the point of giving me a drink was if he didn't want to talk. Maybe he didn't like me when he saw me close up. With that thought in my head, I decided that it was time for me to go. "Well, I'll see you around," I said. But before I could turn around, he grabbed my shoulder gently. "Come with me," he said. It sounded like an order, an aggressive one, if I might add. But at first I thought it was just because of his accent. Although I am a big fan of Thor, and I don't have a problem being anywhere alone with this guy, it still made me nervous because no stranger had ever told me to come with them the way he just did. "Sorry, I'm with my friends," I said, "but maybe we can hang out some other time." "Let's go," he insisted. I wasn't freaking out at first because we were in a public place until he stepped up from the stool. I may have flinched a little when he put his arm around me because, although I was taller, he looked like he could crush me. "Sorry, I really can't," I said. "If this was some other time, I would, but can't leave my friends." I could kind of hear him grumbling under his breath, but as one of my friends approached us, he let go and walked out of the bar. I felt relieved, but at the same time disappointed because the guy was my type until he started ordering me to go with him. My friends kept asking me about him, but I said he didn't seem interested, not wanting to ruin the night for them. I was a little worried because I was thinking that he may have spiked the drink, but then I realized that if I was drugged, it would be taking its effect by then. We left the bar at around 2:30 a.m. Me and my friends have a high alcohol tolerance, so driving home wasn't a problem. I hopped in my friend's car, and we parted ways with my other friends. Usually the streets would still be busy at this hour, but since it's a weekend, it was empty with only a few cars passing by. As we approached the bridge, my friend looked like she was on edge. "You okay?" I asked her in our language. "That car's been following us," she said. I looked back and saw a black Toyota Vios. I told her not to worry about it because they might just be taking the same road on their way home. "Well, whoever they are, they have been tailing us from the club," my friend said. I looked back once again, trying to see how many people there were inside. That's when I saw the same guy from the club, and I was immediately worried for my friend. Still thinking rationally, I told her he lived a few miles from me based on Grindr, so he might be on his way home, and stuff like that. But when I told her about what happened at the club, she started panicking. I told my friend to stop by at the coffee shop on the way, and thank God this one is open for 24 hours. She didn't want to stop because she was really scared. And if we called the cops, they would probably do nothing until something actually happens. And since we were both drunk at the time, it didn't really seem like an option. We were about to park, but the car with a Nordic-looking Grindr guy just sped by. We decided that it's safe after this, and that we had the wrong assumption, so we headed directly to her house. On our way, the black Vios was nowhere in sight. I told her I would be fine walking on my own to my apartment, although she insisted that she would wake up her brother to drop me to my apartment. I told her that it won't be necessary to bother her brother, because I can protect myself. She knows me, though she just gave up and told me to be safe as I headed out. I have never felt threatened walking at this hour because I would usually come home from parties, walking from the main street to my apartment. And since there was a police station a few blocks away, I didn't really mind. As I made it across the main street from the district where my friend lives, I saw the damn black Vios. It was a pretty common car around here, so I tried to calm myself down, telling myself that it wasn't him as I started speedwalking. I heard the sound of car doors closing, and although my mind kept telling me to look back, I couldn't do it. I continued speedwalking. That is when I heard a car starting, which made me look back. It was the black Vios. And as the car started to move, there were three things going on in my mind. Run to the apartment, the closest option as of now. But then be efficient when putting the damn key in the keyhole to unlock the door. And reveal where you live. Run to the coffee shop and hope that there is a security guard there who could help you. Or run to the police station, the farthest option, and have him arrested. My feet felt like jelly, and I didn't know what to do. The best option is the coffee shop, so I started running. I wanted to scream while I was running, but it felt like I was out of breath. The black Vios is now ahead of me, and it parked a few yards in front of me. This made me stop, not turn around, but stop completely on my tracks. Fight or flight. And I chose fight. I had nothing on me that I could really use, and the last fight I have ever been on was in 5th grade. But hell, I felt like I was ready for this. The Nordic-looking stranger stepped out of the car, and it looked like he was holding a small knife. I stood my ground, although I knew I am doomed, and will probably be murdered by Thor. As the Nordic-looking guy approached, the security guard from our university called my name. I turned around and there was a screeching halt as he tried to stop his bicycle. He knew me because there was one time when I got to know him over coffee, at an hour like this. He lives nearby, and I was reminded that he would usually stroll around at this hour. "Kuya," I said, feeling relieved. Kuya means older brother in our language, sort of an informal sir, when you address someone older than you. Before I could even tell him what was happening, I heard the car speeding away. Kuya, the security guard, and I then went to the coffee shop, and I bought him coffee. He said he was called on by his fellow guard, who can't leave his post, to scan the area because they apparently saw a strange guy lurking around the university. He even joked that maybe it was me, but I told him I had just got back from the club. And I also told him about the stranger and what happened, and if he saw him when he called me. He didn't, but he saw the car speeding away. He also said that if I wanted to be escorted to my apartment next time, I could call him, so he gave me his number. I have never heard from the guy since then, and I was even planning to set him up using Grindr so we could get his identification. But I couldn't find his profile anymore when I created a new one. So, Nordic-looking guy I met on Grindr, who may have followed me to the club, and potentially to my apartment. Let's not meet. And thanks for killing the natural flirt inside of me. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 113. It's got a 13 in the title, so it's extra scary. You guys won't be able to tell, but I took a massive break after recording that first part because I was distracted by a packet of toffee pops. If you're wondering what those are, it's kind of like a Twix, same basic ingredients, except the round and the filling is a little softer. Very, very yummy. I just want to thank you for the feedback you've given me on the recent videos. It's much appreciated. I know I sound repetitive, but screw it. I like saying it. I like thanking you guys. I just recently passed a 19,000 subscriber mark. I think it's about 19,100, so zooming in pretty close to that 20,000 mark, which, again, I was shooting for the end of the year for that, so we'll see what happens. I mean, things could just slow up and I might not even hit it this year. It's the way things go sometimes. But I've been doing quite well over the past few weeks. So thank you very much to those of you who are new subscribers. And of course, thanks to those of you who are existing subscribers that have chosen to stay with me. I hope I'm not boring you all yet. Okay, I think I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening and take very good care of yourselves.